Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Sports in the Mitten, powered by Mr. Spots in Ann Arbor. I'm your host, Adam Biggers, Michigan and Michigan State beat writer for FanRag Sports, and obviously I did not travel to Happy Valley. I stayed home this weekend, but just finished watching the Penn State-Michigan game like the rest of you guys, and it did not go as expected in terms of the flow of the game, in terms of just 42 to 13. I did expect Penn State to win this game. However, I did not expect Penn State to win in this fashion. So, real quick before I open up the live chat room, I am going to let everyone know if you don't want to watch the live stream, or if you miss the live streams, or if you want to catch the audio only versions, you can get that on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, FanRag Sports Radio, FanRag Sports channel on Blog Talk Radio, and Google Play as well. So I'm going to open this up. We'll get to your guys' questions. I'll go over some statistics, and hopefully this doesn't get too ugly. So, all right, Big Bubba Blue, what's up? Aaron Wise, how you doing? Says got smoked. That is true. Matt the Destroyer 2, man, nothing was surprising. This is how Michigan was playing the whole season. Matt the Destroyer 2, Penn State is fluffing good though. MIC Book, what's up, Adam? How you doing, MIC? Frank Lucas, season over. Start Peters. Season's not over. CJ Mike 1024. What's up, Adam? Hi, CJ. And start Peters. No, I mean, did you guys want to see Brandon Peters in that? I don't think Brandon Peters would want to be in that. So, what O'Corn got sacked 5 times. Big Bubble Blue, and that's got to be the most in a game since Michigan State got at Devin Gardner 6 times. Because I know 4 times Michigan State sacked O'Corn 4 times. I think that was the second highest total. I'd have to go back and check, but Big Bubba Blue says, not going to lie, offense looked the best it has all season. Defense just got mopped. Matt the Destroyer 2, man, I hate our offensive coordinator. Zach Bass says 0 blocking. One thing that definitely didn't improve was the pass blocking or the tackling. Tackling was terrible. Robert Protzman says this is going to be a fun one. Oh, always is, Robert. And it's 11. It's 11:11 on a Saturday night, so yeah, this should be a fun one. GBF 89 says we're 5-2. Chill. GBF 89, I agree with you there. The season's not over. 5-2. We could talk about that. CJ Mike 1024 says Pep has to go. Tatenda Zanyemba says very underwhelming from defense. Matt the Destroyer 2, uncharacteristic breaks in the defense tonight. Absolutely. Matt the Destroyer 2 says I'm going to the Rutgers game. Can't wait to see Brandon Peters play. I'll be at the Rutgers game too next weekend. That's homecoming. I was asked on Twitter by a former colleague of mine from Booth, Mid-Michigan, Sean Lutz. He said, where does Michigan and Harbaugh go from here? I said 5-2 and on to the next game, which is homecoming against Rutgers. Michael Ardeline. Why I say it differently every time. I'll get it. Ardeline, right? Am I saying it right, Michael? I know Penn State is good, but that was unacceptable. Drevno should be fired, man. Ridiculous. Frank Lucas says, bench everyone on the O-line. Well, then who's going to play? That's their best offensive line, guys. I mean, I'm telling you, the best players are out on the field. That's the goal every week. Michigan fields the best players that it can. And its best players were not as good as Penn State's best players tonight. Its best players probably weren't as good as Penn State's second best players tonight. This was just, Michigan got its butt handed to it. There's really no other way to say it. I think I have to clean up the swear words because sometimes I slip every now and then. And if I want to monetize a YouTube video, it has to be like for all ages or whatever. So I can't say even like the little swear words. So I got it. So Michigan got its butt handed to it, definitely tonight. Matt the Destroyer 2 says I can't blame O'Corn. O-line and play calling are just unbelievably bad. Ora 82 says I give them props. I'm at work, but the parts I saw, the receivers are legit. Number 5 is good, so is the quarterback. Margin of error in this game was super low for us. I agree, Ora 82. And Deshaun Hamilton, let's go over some stats real quick. Deshaun Hamilton, 6 catches for 115 yards, averaging 19.2 per catch. He was targeted 8 times. That's the highest total from a receiver all season against Michigan's defense. And I'm willing to bet probably going back to last year as well. Trace McSorley, 17 to 26 for 282 yards, just 1 touchdown. through the air, 1 interception. That's a high for a quarterback this year, yardage wise. Saquon, 15 carries, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns. Of course, opening up the game. I mean, just boom. That 50 or 49-yard touchdown rather, or 59-yard touchdown. That was just. I mean, that was. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's for Penn State. That's the ideal way. That's the way you want to open a game if you're Penn State. And Penn State had its foot on the gas the entire time. Penn State's offense is good. I've been trying to tell people this. I feel like a lot of people were underestimating Penn State, and well, they haven't played anybody, and all this other stuff. And Trace McSorley's overrated. You know, Saquon Barkley, Indiana capped him, so therefore Michigan's going to be able to do this and that. And I mean, I know that we have to use other games, I guess, as a basis for comparison, but to expect that Michigan was going to cap Saquon Barkley and just thoroughly make him a non-factor in this game, I think was just, if you thought that, you were fooling yourself, definitely. So I'll get back to the questions here. Go over some more stats if you guys want. Let me know. Chris Carter says, I think O'Korn played well with what... Oh, shoot, I missed... Hold on. I scroll down and I move them up. I just lost them all. Okay, Chris Carter says, I think O'Korn played well with what he had. Drop passes, line giving up sacks. Cordell Cummings says, didn't expect to win, but that was a horrible showing. I agree, Cordell. And Cordell, of course, as you know, I was tweeting. I mean, I saw some tweets. David Long with an interception. Someone tweeted, and it was a media member. And guys, I try to make this clear. A lot of people, I think you have to understand, like, even the people in the media, and you know, some of these other like or non-major media sites, it's fan. It's rah rah a lot of times, and I'm not gonna give you that rah rah stuff. You know, I was getting a little bit of crap because I was saying that DPJ had a good. DPJ had an excellent game. Show me an offensive player with better stats than him tonight. I mean, Ty Isaac had a touchdown. That sort of stuff. I mean, I'm not gonna give you just fan emotion and start, you know, fire Harbaugh, fire this coach, fire this guy. This is unacceptable. Every player should be the best player in the nation, and you know, Rashawn Gary should have 5 sacks every single game, and that you're not going to get that from me. So there's a lot of overreaction, and it's been a lot of overreaction throughout the entire year. If you didn't think this was going to be a 9-3 type of season, again, that's something that. You have to be real with yourself. I mean, look at the amount of turnover. Yeah, there's a lot of talent there, and yes, the 2016 class, it was like 23 of them played last year, but that doesn't necessarily. You have to also take into account that this offense, and I think that this offense, if it wasn't built around Wilton Speight, I don't want to say it was built around Wilton Speight. I think it had Wilton in mind, and without Wilton Speight at peak condition. I mean, and obviously he's injured. I mean, John O'Korn's having a rough time. The offensive line. There are so many different things that you could point to. So I mean, yeah, you could be disappointed, shocked at the way the Michigan lost tonight. But like I said, if you didn't think this was going to be like a 9-3 season, then I think that you were sadly mistaken, because that's where it's headed. 9-3, maybe 8-4. I mean, Wisconsin's going to be tough. Ohio State's going to be tough. Next weekend, obviously, is a confidence builder against Rutgers, and I'm sure they don't. Penn State didn't forget 49-10. Michigan's not going to forget the FOIA. So, if anything, if Michigan's offense has any sort of pulse or any sort of extra gear to where, okay, it can really bear down on a team, even if it's Rutgers, it has to happen next week. It just does. Jeremy Turner says, what's up, Adam? So surprised by the way the D played. Yeah, so am I, Jeremy. I mean, we saw a lot of guys just... I mean, Mike McCrave looked overmatched. Tyree Kinnell looked overmatched at some times with Deshaun Hamilton. Josh Metellus had some moments, too. I mean, and these are all players who have been, pretty good defensively all year. I mean, Tyree had the defensive individual performance of the year by any Michigan player this season against Cincinnati. And the stats were all there. If you would have told me that Penn State was going to put up 42 points on Michigan's defense, I'd said no. I thought 3 touchdowns was going to win this, and 21-14 would be the final. So Michigan only scored 13. Would have had, should have had Quinn Nordine, misses a point after attempt, his first one of the year. So even if Penn State, Michigan could only score 2 touchdowns, and that's what I figured was Michigan's limit against a pretty good Penn State defense. So, but again, if you told me that Penn State was going to score 42 on Michigan, I would have said you're out of your mind. I really saw a 21-14 game, and I think most people, I don't think anybody predicted a blowout, but I think the majority of people, at least national and media and non-local, that kind of thing, predicted Penn State to win this game. So, Big Bubba Blue says, whoever thought we would win this and thought we were better needed to relax. We will be fine. Time to beat those Bucks. They're not. I don't think they're beating Ohio State. Michael Ardeline said, I think defense was gassed just over the last few weeks. Matt the Destroyer 2 says we're going to follow the AP poll because the AP poll is terrible. Aaron Quinney says O'Corn holds the ball way too long, unacceptable for a fifth-year guy. Michael Ardeline, the staff is 6-5 over the last 11 games. Aaron Quinney says it's hard to when you have 1 second in the pocket. O-line's awful. Justin Green, Justin, you're back. Justin says, I cannot. In reference to what, Justin? Big Bubble Blue says, different team. And Michael, Matt the Destroyer says, man, just let me fast forward to next year. Adpocalypse on YouTube sucks. Matt the Destroyer 2 says, Cordell Cumming, if Juwan Bushell-Beatty is the best we have, then we will have a huge problem. He's horrible on pass blocking. Michael says, I get it, man, but still the state loss was bad, and so was Iowa last year. State loss was bad because, 5 turnovers, 3 interceptions, you lose by 4 points. That was very much a winnable game for Michigan. And that was a game I expected Michigan to win. So, Aaron Quinney says that Big Bubble Blue, even when he had time, he held it. CJ Mike 1024. We have to get over this young team talk also. Every team goes through this and seems to look better than anything we tried out the last 3 games. Jan Stein von Squidmerstein. What's with the defense? I don't know, Jan Stein. That was like I said, this is basic. What we saw the defense, it's taken over the past 2 years. This would be like a 3-game stretch, 4-game stretch, literally. And look at the number just for a point of reference. Tonight, Penn State put up 506 yards of total offense against Michigan. Last year, Michigan put up 515 total yards. 189 of that was through the air, 326 on the ground. Tonight, Penn State 282 through the air, 224 through on the ground. So a little more balanced, but Penn State essentially just gave Michigan what Michigan gave it last year. And so what's with the defense? The defense did not live up to best in the country billing. I don't think you can say that Michigan's defense is the best in the country anymore. I think you could say, and I figured this would be a top 5 or a top 10 defense, no doubt in my mind. Statistically, they're still going to be in top 10. I'm pretty sure, but yeah, Michigan has a top 10 defense now instead of the number 1 overall defense. So, and considering the factors, I don't think that's anything to be upset about. But again, I know like the super fan takes, well, number 10 ranked defense, that's bull crap. I don't know what else to say about it. It's they need to be number 1 in every statistical category, and it's really getting kind of repetitive this year. You need to stop. If you get too worked up about this, you need to step back a little bit and reevaluate some things. But if you're just, I can understand from a football perspective, from a fan perspective, if you're getting worked up, but at the same time, though, take a step back a little bit because they are 5-2. The season is not over, and anybody who says the season's over, Big Ten title hopes are basically gone. But at the same time, Penn State's got Ohio State and then Michigan State. So Penn State looks pretty good. Penn State looks like it'll probably beat Ohio State. I think Penn State will beat Michigan State. So, for what it's worth. But if Penn State, if Ohio State manages to knock them off, and maybe Michigan State does, it's a new ball game. But then you still have the head-to-head. At the same time, what I'm trying to say is 5-2. with this team right now is not the end of the world. I mean, if you look at all the problems that the Wolverines have had this year, and just rewind, don't even think about preseason expectations. Look at all the problems through this year. Look at the schedule, and then give me a fair assessment what you think would be without any going into it with any preconceived notions. Just look at the numbers right now. Offensive numbers. I think a lot of people would be shocked that this team had 5 wins if you look at a lot of these offensive numbers. So, Michael Ardeline says, better hope Newsom comes back strong and Filiaga can step up next year. Cordell Cummings says, yeah, they need some help on the O-line. Cordell Cummings says, why didn't we go nickel and put a corner on Hamilton the whole game? I don't know if that would have helped Cordell. I mean, I know there's a lot of, what if they did this? What if they didn't? Okay, would that have held them to 4 catches for 80 yards rather than 6 catches for 115 yards? I mean, it was a matter of matchups tonight, I think. And I mean, Mike Gesicki, he was a matchup nightmare, and I knew that he was going to be 6'6", 250 pounds. I mean, Michigan fans saw what Jake Butt did for the past 2 years when he was Big Ten tight end of the year award. I mean, I think you saw the Big Ten tight end of the year right now with Mike. So, and Jake would go up and get some of those jump balls. Jake was also a basketball player. I believe Mike Gesicki was a basketball player. So, Frank Lucas says, if you think about it, this is the first good offense Michigan has faced. Well, I mean, I think Indiana had a decent offense. I mean, I think Michigan State had an okay offense, at least potentially. At that point, Brian Lewerke was the best quarterback they had faced. But I mean, I think Indiana had a decent offense. And speaking of Indiana, I mean, Indiana gave Michigan State everything it wanted to. Michigan State only won that game 17-9. Chris Carter says, why was McCray consistently on Barkley? And Chris, that's a great question because I specifically asked Jim Harbaugh this question on Monday. How important were Khaleke Hudson and Devin Bush going to be on Saquon Barkley? Because I anticipated that they would be the 2 primary coverage guys. Devin Bush told me he expected to be matched up on him all game. The interviews are on my YouTube channel. Please like, share, subscribe. Guys, the subscribers are going up. And again, thank you. There are a lot of podcasts and stuff out there. A lot of places where you can get videos. So thanks for stopping by and watching and all that stuff. I do appreciate it. I want to read this one tweet from, I don't know, some of you guys may follow her, Lauren Feldman. I've traded tweets with her I feel like for the past few seasons. Scrolling down. At FeldyMNB. Okay. There's also just dick anarchists who love to question structure and authority, then totally get off when they notice it's working. And then I think there was one more. Goes back to what we were talking about before. Harbaugh this is it, hire. There's a bit of panic of fix it now before we're eclipsed. I don't know if that was the one. There was one. Anyway, there was a couple good ones. So yeah, thanks, Lauren. If any of you guys are watching on Twitter, want to ask a question, at Adam Biggers 81. I think most of the people now just do it here in the live chat. So go for hockey, SIG, coach going nowhere. Yeah, Harbaugh's not going anywhere. We're not even going to talk about that. Brad Flaherty says, I think Michigan should have a chance against Ohio State. They always score 60 in meaningless games, but then sputter against good teams like Michigan and Michigan State. Almost lost to us in their down year. Yeah, guys, I didn't see anything about calling for Harbaugh's job. I think is just really not even. Who else is gonna? And someone tweeted this and replied. Someone tweeted something similar to me, and someone replied. So, I mean, who else would be able to? Would you want? I know it's always Jim Harbaugh is the guy for Michigan. I've been convinced of that since his hire. I mean, and again, if you look at some of these numbers and tell me that this would be a team just on paper Don't don't think about the coaches, don't think about the players, don't think about any expectations coming in. Wipe all that clean and just look at the offensive numbers on paper and tell me you wouldn't be surprised that this team has won 5 games. Denver 41, stupid, really stupid to finish your thought, Adam. Yeah, I agree. Go for hockey, SIG, you could tell Michigan is young. Yeah, Michigan is young. The young secondary, I feel like if there was some talk about that in the beginning of the year. This was an example of that. But other than that, I mean, Michigan second. I was just talking about the other day because pass defense numbers, pass efficiency numbers, all the numbers are there for the secondary. We've seen all kinds. I mean, we've seen Kennel, Metellus, Long, Watson, Lavert Hill. We've seen all those guys make really nice plays this season. This went totally opposite in terms of I did expect Penn State to win, but I did not expect in this way. And if you would have told me, I mean, Lavert Hill, David Long were all right, but they both got burned a couple times. Josh Metellus got burned. Tyree Kinnel got burned. I mean, if you would have told me that Trace McSorley was going to essentially pick apart Michigan secondary, I wouldn't have believed that. Shane Majewski says, "Don't listen to Spath shit, man. You are entitled to your opinions." I stick by my own opinions. I try to be polite about it, but I don't care. Basically, my thing is I'm right in my own mind, and if you can't prove me wrong, then well, you're not going to prove me wrong. Because I don't just say things to say it. But yeah, I don't go about it as a rah rah fan thinking with emotion. And this is purely unacceptable. This coach needs to be fired. I guarantee someone like that wouldn't even whisper it under their breath. If we get Tim Drevno one day, he says, "Tim Drevno, you need to be fired." I guarantee he wouldn't. None of these guys would. 9 out of 10 of them wouldn't. So take that into context too. A lot of people are very opinionated and almighty on Twitter, but they won't say this crap to any of the players' faces. They wouldn't say this to Harbaugh's face. Anything I say are right, I'll say it to the players and I'll say it to Harbaugh's face, if I'm asking a question. So Zach Bass says, "No, but your logic should say online horrible." Well, yeah, and I know that. And for me to expect logic, I guess, on Twitter, because not everybody approaches it the same way. A lot of people look at Twitter. I take it seriously because in my job, a tweet that one of you guys would tweet, just joking around as a fan or just, a tweet about something personal in the day, I might be able to get fired for something like that. So trust me, I do filter myself on Twitter as much as possible. But at the same time, I feel like, if you're on Twitter a lot and if you are media, you are what you tweet, you are what you write, you are what you say. So, I make sure that if I tweet something, I'm not just gonna. Sometimes I just tweet stuff, but I'm not gonna tweet anything that I regret or that I wouldn't say to someone's face. And again, yeah, the logic behind expecting logic on Twitter, I guess that's not very logical. But I do feel like there are a lot of logical people on Twitter. There is that certain group of people who aren't. Michael Allen says, "I wish we could be excited for our future, but we saw how our seniors played last year on the road." Chris Carter says, "Ty Kinnel looked way overmatched. I noticed he's missed a couple of key tackles in the last few games. Need taller safeties." And Chris, tackling tonight was just how many missed tackles, how many broken tackles, how many. I'm trying to think of the drive. It was fourth quarter. Saquon. It was just a. Jeez, what I'm trying to remember exact play. All I remember is seeing Noah Furbush just wrap up a guy's leg and roll over, and it was Saquon. And Saquon broke out of that tackle and got like 3 or 4 extra yards. And Noah Furbush is typically a pretty sure tackler. Everybody tonight, I feel like, had tackling issues. Chris Carter said, "I counted at least 10. Yeah, probably. Rhonda, so would you call me crazy to my face? Yes, Rhonda, I would. Absolutely. But I would prepare probably to be smacked. Would you smack me if I called you crazy to your face? I would say I'd probably tone it down a little bit, Rhonda, and say some of the things that you've tweeted to me about Michigan football have been crazy. Joe Justice says Saquon wasn't even an MVP of the game. McSorley showed why he's a winner. And Joe, just like I always talk about the Big Ten championship game, Trace was great then. Deshaun Hamilton, but yeah, Trace, his rushing tight, he didn't even, nobody touched him. I'm stuttering right now, guys. I'm running out of gas. It's 11:30. Nobody even touched him on that. I mean, Trace McSorley took that game into his hands. I agree. Cordell Cummings says that's why tall corners and safeties are converted. Jaceki is a beast, but when guarded by someone 5'10", 6 foot, that's automatic jump ball. Yep. Rhonda says, okay, that's fair. Thanks, Rhonda. Zach Bass, is it crazy to say McCray is our slowest linebacker? And Zach, I've got this question before. I mean, I think he's quicker than Noah Furbush, but I mean, Devin Bush is really fast. I mean, Devin Gill, Josh Uche, those guys are fast. I mean, Michigan's recruited faster linebackers. I don't think Mike McCray's slow. I just think that a guy like Devin Bush is a lot quicker. Joe Justice says Trace was having an off year and an off first half. Not anymore, though. This is the kind of game that'll get you going. That's for sure. But I mean, Trace was. I mean, what he had coming in this game, he had like 13 passing touchdowns. I think only 14 or 4 interceptions rather. Sorry, 13 passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and he was completing like 67% of his passes. So I mean, if that's a down year, you know, I've seen peak Trace McSorley. I don't cover Penn State. I don't see him every game. But I saw what I believe to be peak Trace McSorley last year during the second half of the Big Ten championship game. And I think we saw that same Trace McSorley tonight against Michigan. Joe Justice, come on, man, Jay. Yeah, I don't get the criticism, Joe. A lot of people say, "Oh, Trace chucks up the ball." Trace, I don't think Trace just chucks up the ball. I think Trace takes advantage. He puts the ball where, like you're saying, where Mike Gesicki can get it, where Deshaun Hamilton can get it. What about that pass over Josh Metellus that was to I believe it was to Saquon Barkley? Couldn't have been nicer. I mean, there were so many balls tonight that Trace threw that were right on the money, and there were some that he threw up where he knew only his receiver could get it. I don't think it's chucking. I think it's just knowing knowing where your receiver wants the ball, knowing how the defensive back's going to play the ball, and taking all that into account. I like Trace McSorley. Always have. Brad Flaherty says Trace almost threw Michigan back into the game. Very aggressive, and he'll be exposed. Disappointing Michigan's secondary couldn't expose him. I disagree with that, Brad. I think he exposed Michigan's secondary. You got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, Trace McSorley had an excellent game tonight. I don't see how you could say anything less. Michael Allen says, any chance we could get Jed Fish back here for next year? No, guys. And remember, I mean, they're all, Pep's 4-year extension, 4-year deal. Dravno and Brown signed 5-year extensions. Zach Bass says 9-3 is pretty optimistic. Probably 8-4. That O-line, man, and just keep stressing him, but they struggle that much. Rhonda says McCray always looks slow. And Rhonda, you had the stat, Michigan was 1-17, now 1-18 as the underdog. Robert Protzman says, imagine if Hudson would have caught that interception for a touchdown. Okay, so 42-20 then, right? And if David Long would have picked 6, then it would have been 42-28. Is that fair to say? What if? I mean, if the what if, benefits Michigan, I mean, what if, Penn State, or would Penn State have just scored more points? I mean, would it have been a 56-28 game? I mean, I don't know. I thought Cleek made a pretty good play on the ball. Yeah, obviously he wants that one back, pick 6. I mean, same thing with David Long. I saw someone, like I said, was a media member, and David Long didn't even make an effort to shake his man. That should have been a pick 6. I'm like, come on, it was that was a huge, potentially momentum swinging play. Michigan was down 14-0. David Long just came up with a huge interception. It was only McSorley's 5th of the year, and you want to say that David Long didn't do enough? The offense scored 13 points. Well, no, the offense scored 12 points because Quinn Nordine had one of those points for the 13th point. So, the offense scored 12 points, 2 touchdowns tonight. Don't complain that that David Long didn't do enough to. He should have, could have, would have. From a very from a media member I know damn well never played a sport in his life. So I'm not gonna say his name, but I know damn well I never played a sport in his life other than Madden. So. All right, guys, I'm going to get off that. I don't get the criticism. If you've never played a sport, it is so easy for people to, just like with the Donovan Peoples-Jones thing, I read in a Facebook group earlier this week, Donovan Peoples-Jones should be redshirted. He's not ready, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he's had the 44-yard jet sweep. He's had, you know, what, a couple 15-yard returns, like a 25-yard return. He led Michigan tonight with 3 catches for 46 yards. So, I was accused of throwing a parade for Donovan Peoples-Jones tonight. No, I just think that for a true freshman, 3 catches, 46 yards on the road, you were the only guy. John O'Korn, 16 of 28 for 166 yards tonight. I mean, there was nothing impressive about the offense, but a true freshman, I think, Donovan Peoples-Jones, or three catches for 43 yards. Grant Perry led with 3 catches for 46 yards, I'm sorry. So, I thought DPJ had a pretty good game, relatively speaking. So, is that throwing a parade for him? No, not really. I'm just highlighting one of the better offensive performances and noting there was a true freshman doing this on the road. So, don't redshirt that guy. He's kind of good. Okay, anyway, any other guys? I'm starting to get a little, I'm trying to think of the word for it. I gotta tone myself down. It's getting late. I might start saying what I really want to say. Penn State, 1 penalty for 10 total yards. And I mean, it was 11 for 68 Michigan had against Indiana, right? Or no, it was 11 for 87, I think. 16 for 87. It was 11 for 98. My mind's escaping me right now. That was a ton. It was 11 for 98 in the first half. I know that. Anyway, 6 for 59 tonight. Penn State only 1 for 10. I'll go through the total yards, all the game stats real quick. Total yards, 269 for Michigan, 506 for Penn State. Pass yards, 166 for Michigan, 282 for Penn State. Rush yards, 103 for Michigan, 224 for Penn State. Penalties, 6 for 59 for Michigan, 1 of 10 Penn State. First down, 16 to 25. Third down, 6 of 16, 4 of 7 for Penn State. Fourth downs, 2 of 4 Michigan. 0 for 1 Penn State. Penn State faced 1 fourth down tonight. Total plays 70. Penn State 61. That's a telling stat as well. Average yards per play 3.8 for Michigan. 8.3 for Penn State. Average yards for a completion 10.4, which considering what's happened with John O'Korn, I mean that number bodes well for John. I mean 10 yards. If there is no silver lining, I'm not going to sit here and tell you there is a silver lining, but 10.4 yards per completion. 16.6 for Penn State. Average yards per rush, 2.5 to 6.4. I think you guys get the picture here. Michigan had the ball for 5 minutes longer than Penn State did. 2 fumbles, lost 1. O'Korn was sacked 7 times for 49 yards. Michigan had 7 tackles for loss for 28 yards. Penn State had 8 tackles for loss for 55 yards. So if there's any other individual stat or anything that you guys want me to highlight real quick, Denver 41 at Owen. Yeah, people are refusing to give credit to Penn State. They have some good players, good-looking offense. Yeah, if you're not giving credit to Penn State, then you are just a, I don't know. I mean, I understand if you're a fan, but you can't be a delusional fan. You have to give credit to Penn State. You just do. Did Michigan have any sacks? Yes, 2 sacks for 11 yards. And I'll tell you who had them. We'll go over Michigan's. Mike McCray had a half a sack. Kwity Paye had half a sack. Mo Hurst had a sack. And Kwity Paye, we saw Kwity come in for Chase. Kwity had 3 tackles tonight. Half a sack, a tackle for loss. He was a guy I expected to be in the 2 deep earlier this year. Luigi Villain as well, but I expect we won't see Luigi until next year. Cordell Cummings says, hard to root against Barkley, one hell of a player and seems like a nice guy. I interviewed Saquon actually last year. He is a pretty nice guy. And I'll say this too, I'm forgetting, I think his last name's Scott. He's a captain actually, he's a defensive back at Penn State. Rode the elevator with him. Really nice guy too. So, I know some people want to believe that Michigan is the only school that gets nice, character guys, and the rest of the guys that go to other schools are a bunch of jerks and stuff. Actually, that's not the case. Penn State recruits well. Penn State's developing well. I think we see that. Chris Carter says it's hard living in Columbus, Ohio, being a Michigan fan. I bet. Adam, do you remember I said 49 D Cookster? Adam, do you remember I said 49-10 at the beginning of the week in favor of Penn State? I vaguely remember that. I think, yeah. And if I'm not sure, I know that someone bid. I know that one person did pick Penn State big. Rhonda says, do you think MSU out schemes and shuts down Penn State? Nope. Nope. Adam Walney, are they redshirting Luigi? I expect that. Courage Ekwanye says, Peters, no. It's not going to happen, Courage. Michael Allen says, so how about that basketball season? We'll get into basketball. All Penn State players are leaders. Joe Justice, yeah. Who am I thinking of? Defensive backs, last name Scott. He's a captain. I'm looking it up right now. Nick Scott, yep. I rode the elevator with him last year. Really nice kid. Nice guy. I don't want to say kid like I'm demeaning him. Really nice guy. Hit the elevator buttons for me and everything. Asked me what I was down there for. He saw like I was dressed. It was after the game, so yeah, we had a good chat. Pretty nice guy. I look at all teams and coaches the same way, guys. I look at players, I look at coaches, I look at all these players are trying to achieve their dreams. These coaches are achieving their dreams. I don't look at it with any type of fan bias. I just don't. Michael Allen, what floor were you going to? I don't remember. I think I was going up to my room because there were a couple in the lobby. It was all the whole Penn State team. They were staying in the same hotel that I was in, Marriott downtown Indianapolis. So I think I just got in with the second group. There was like 5 offensive linemen or 4 of them, and you couldn't get any more guys in the elevator after that. And I had to go in the second group that had some smaller guys in comparison, like defensive backs. Me, I'm like 5'9", 160, so I was definitely the smallest guy in there, standing next to these dudes. It's a humbling experience when you are standing by 4 to 5 Division I linemen in the hotel lobby, and you realize that you are not very big. The season's done. It's over. No, it's not. Courage Ekwanye. Zach Bass, who won the sandwich? Nobody won the sandwich. Not a home game. We'll play that game this week, though. Big Bubba Blue says, Jacob Eason transfer here. Jacob Eason transfer here. I don't know, Big Bubba Blue. Adam Walney says, hypothetical situation, we hire Les Miles as an offensive coordinator. What would be your thoughts? Well, I mean, they'd have to buy out Tim Drevno's contract. Guys, I don't think there's going to... I know everybody wants to talk about coaching changes. I just don't think it's going to happen, so... I just don't. You have to consider that things weren't just going to be... This was not going to be a national championship. I know year 3 people expected big things, but you have to take into account all the losses from last year. And, I mean, I'm not using that as a crutch because, again, I fully expected this was going to be a 9-3 season. We're going on 39 minutes, guys. My bedtime's coming up pretty soon. I'll have a follow-up column on Michigan Penn State tomorrow on FanRag Sports, so check that out on fanragsports.com, at @fanrag_u on Twitter, and of course on my Twitter, at AdamBiggers81. Adam's sleeping midstream. I'm trying to stay up. It's almost midnight. Owen Schuessler says it's minor rebuilding year. I agree. Zach Bass, want to see us block better, but can they? Or is this all they have? I think it's unfair to totally... I think Michigan's secondary, did it get exposed? Yes, momentarily. Did Michigan's defense as a whole get exposed? Yes, momentarily. Is Michigan's defense horrible? No. Michigan still has a top 10 defense in the country. It faced a really good offense with some of the best playmakers in the Big Ten, and it did get it got ran. But okay, it happens. Not going to hold. I mean, this if there was going to be a lapse game for Michigan's defense, probably better now than against Ohio State. Probably better now than in a bowl game. I figured at some point, and I'm not saying this was going to happen, but I figured at some point. I mean, how long could Michigan's defense really carry this team? I mean, at some point something had to give, right? And I mean, it has to be offensively. I mean, it's not the offense's fault that the defense gave up 42 points, but I mean, I do think it's fair to wonder if the defense had more of an offense to support it. I don't know. Then again, Michigan ran, 11 more plays than Penn State, too. So it's not like Penn State had Michigan's defense out there just tiring out all the time. It's Penn State's offense was just really good tonight. Phase Food, or hold on, Adam, who do you think will be our starting quarterback next year? Michael Allen wants to know. I think it's Dylan McCaffrey. I think. And Chung 89706, and that's just my early pick right now, and that's assuming. I mean, if Wilton Spate comes back healthy, I think it's Wilton's job until he leaves, but I think it's Dylan. Should Wilton Spate not return? And I don't know if he is or not, so if Wilton comes back, it's Wilton's job. Courage Ekwanye, what, Dylan? I know. Okay, well, Courage, I've been right on the quarterbacks for the past 3 years, so don't LMAO at me. Aaron Sykes says Mason Cole is not a leader at all. Aaron Sykes, that is a bold statement that I could not be any more wrong. What basis do you have to say that? I've talked to Mason Cole probably 50 times since he's been at Michigan. And if you want to look at a player that's a leader, Mason Cole is a leader. Why is he not a leader, Aaron Sykes? Tell me that. And how many times have you talked to Mason Cole, and how much personal experience do you have to say that he's not a leader? Because I can give you a ton. I could give you a ton of reasons why he is. I just want to know what you say. Zach Bass, McCaffrey, bowl predict. Hey, Dylan was fighting in there for the third spot this year, guys. It was Dylan and Brandon. It wasn't, and Dylan was getting with Brandon. Don't automatically assume it's Brandon Peters. Phase Food, not Taylor Lewan or Jake Long. Well, Mason Cole's never been accused. I'm not going to say that's unfair comparison. Mason Cole's one of the best left tackles to ever play at Michigan. One of the best offensive linemen to play at Michigan. That's an indisputable fact. You don't think it? Yeah, I think Mason Cole's getting drafted. Michael Allen, so are we Michigan fans missing out on something with Kareem? He only had 1 carry, but it's for 11 yards. Why aren't we playing him? Rhonda says leader but can't block. Phase Food attitude, I know. You know Mason Cole's at, okay. Zach, that's what I'm saying. I think for people who don't even have contact with these guys, I mean, it's so easy to criticize their athletic ability, but then when you start making personal claims against them, it's like, how much do you really know? And I'm not going to say that the media sessions, that these guys don't put their best foot forward, and, we know them in that context. But I do actually, and I have known several Michigan players from past teams, good guys. I mean, I know Matt Godin really well. I know Kenny Allen really well. Knew Thomas Rawls really well. That kind of stuff. So when people want to make a personal, make a statement about a guy's personal character or whatever, well, how much basis do you have on it? He's not a leader. Why? Because he had a bad game, and and now he's got a bad. Mason Cole's a leader. So Robert Protzman, people forget 08-14 so fast. Those were bad teams. Yes, the Rich Rod era, for sure. You guys, if you don't remember the Rich Rod era, please do. Mason Cole played as a freshman. Mason Cole started every single game since day one as a freshman. If that's not a leader, I don't know what is. Chris Carter says, I agree with Robert Protzman. I'm tired of the lookout blocks. Good looking, honky Peter North here, old porn star. Great stream. All right, thanks, Peter. Appreciate it. I don't know why I read that one. I'm sorry. It's about time to go, guys. Couple more questions. I want to go watch some highlights. Notre Dame got all over USC. Adams dropping knowledge. Go to bed, says Brad Flaherty. Yeah, guys, I'm gonna go to bed, or at least stop here. I'm gonna do some stat crunching and get some notes for tomorrow's column. But yeah, I'm running out of gas. You guys can see that. So before I let you guys go, I appreciate it watching late night. It was fun. Obviously not the outcome that Michigan fans wanted, but it nonetheless, if you expected Michigan to win this game, well, I don't know why, because I don't want to sit here and say, okay, when I said at the beginning of the week Michigan had zero chance to win, it's because I thought if we saw anything close to what we saw tonight from Penn State's offense, I didn't see Michigan offense being able to score 2 touchdowns. This was going to be a race to 3 touchdowns, and that was my zero chance, unless the defense came up with a touchdown. So anyway, follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. Read my column tomorrow. It'll be much more coherent than the last few minutes of this podcast, I promise. That'll be on FanRag Sports tomorrow at FanRag_U, FanRagSports.com. And again, I want to thank Tim and Keith at Mr. Spots in Ann Arbor, 808 State Street in Ann Arbor, MrSpotsAnnArbor.com. Next week is a home game. It's Rutgers homecoming, so we'll do the score prediction game. The closest without going over, the first one to nail the score will get a free half chicken or a half steak sandwich from Mr. Spot. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night, and we'll talk more Monday. Thank you.